Hello, hello, everyone. How are you doing this wonderful Sunday night? It is indeed REDTalk time. It's, time to start. For those that don't know, very rarely, someone will post an opinion about fighting games that gets me so heated that I have to make a PowerPoint because I'm livid. Hello, Bullet. Hello, Isaac. Hello, Alden. Hello, Doom. How's everyone doing tonight? Rare Sunday stream. Because this has happened before. Yes! Only once! But it's happened once before, and it's when Mars was showing his ass on the timeline. I have since privated that video because I said some things that were maybe a little too mean. You can still probably find it somewhere. But in general, this is the second time this has happened. Yes, Mars Smash Brothers, posting some whack-ass opinions. And, well, the way that I see it is whenever I see a hot take that tends to be thrown at the community that I think can be a little wacky or unjust or misunderstood, I like to take and discuss what is being talked about and maybe try to reframe it in a way that is a little more productive. And we'll get into what this opinion is and everything here in a minute, because obviously that's part of the presentation. But last time it was Mars talking about how top players should have like priority over registering for open brackets above like normal like entrance, essentially, because essentially a bunch of players ended up oversleeping. They ended up not being able to register for like CEO in time because COVID restrictions made it really tight to be able to enter that bracket. And I went into them a little hard, a little bit. Sometimes I'm not very proud of that, but this is a little different because today we're talking about a video made by Hotashi. Yo, Rally, what up? And we'll go into more about that here in a bit. But the topic of the presentation today is, wow, there are too many online tournaments. But what if I told you that's actually a good thing? But also, to kind of add on to a little bit, why that's a good thing, but also, how can we make our events better? Because I can tell you right now, there's always room for improvement no matter what we're doing. Because, to get the show rolling here, first off, why am I doing this? Why? What's the fucking point? Why is this dude in the orange flannel that I bought yesterday, by the way, it feels really nice, going off about online tournaments? Well, it's context time, baby, because as you know, context is king. So for those that don't know, a couple days ago, we have top player Hotashi. You may know him from his work in Guilty Gear Xrd playing Elfelt. Absolute war criminal, wonderful player, gets all sorts of results. In general, pretty good at the video game. And you may also know him as EVO Online champion, as well as champion of a whole bunch of other tournaments in Guilty Gear Strive, playing with Nago Ryuki. Absolute killer in that game. Does wonderful work, absolutely joy to be able to watch how he approaches this game. For those that don't know, Hotashi also has a YouTube channel where he will sometimes talk about tutorials, talk about some think pieces, and in this case, an opinion piece. And the opinion piece that he gave in this video was, I believe the exact title was, online fighting game tournaments are oversaturated. Parentheses, opinion. Netplay tournaments are oversaturated, opinion. It's actually right there. I completely forgot. I'm not even looking at my own presentation. But yeah, netplay tournaments are oversaturated. And in his piece, he gives his thoughts on why these tournaments are oversaturated and how a lot of these events don't really have a lot of meaning because there's not a lot of stakes. There's not a lot of production being put in, that a lot of people are putting on tournaments for the sake of putting on tournaments. And as someone who is a former TO, a current event organizer, and longtime member of the FGC, I was hearing a lot of his points, and a lot of his points seem to come more from the perspective of a top player rather than someone who might be a little closer to the ground level. And he himself even admits that. Later, he came back in the YouTube comments of his video and is saying, hey, yeah, this is more from my perspective, and I kind of hadn't realized what I was saying at the time, that it would be affecting so many other people from that different perspective. And that's the main reason why I'm not, like, tearing into him, because he's not doubling down. He's not going nuts. What up, Aiden? He's not going nuts. He's not doubling down. He's learning from his mistakes. So I don't agree with a lot of the points that he made, but he's not doubling down. He's learning from his experiences. And I decided, you know what? If he's going to try to learn from stuff, so am I. What I want to bring to the table today is how having so many events is a good thing. How so many events came to be, and also bring to the table ways budding event organizers can make events more unique and, more importantly, more fun. And the other reason is, I'm fucking unhinged and I really fucking like making PowerPoints. If I could just make PowerPoints for the rest of my streaming career every single fucking week, you bet your ass I would. If there is a demographic of people that enjoy just watching FGC and or anime PowerPoints, hit me up. Give me an offer. You won't be disappointed. Let me tell you. But here we go. Our context is out of the way. Let's get started with our first point. Who is this guy? Who am I? For the guy that finds this on YouTube, sees this dude rambling, who is this guy? Well, if you wanted to know, Sir Charles, you clicking on the YouTube video, I'm RedMufflerMan, and I've been a part of the FGC since 2008. One of the main games I first started with was Super Turbo HDR, but I played a lot of Street Fighter 4, and really kind of started getting more into the FGC once I started playing more Ultimate Marvel and BlazBlue. And I've been making content for years, a lot of voice acting, silly content, little bits of like educational FGC content here and there. I've TO'd and organized and commentated events both online and offline. So in general, I might not be a top player. In fact, I consider myself somewhere high, mid, low, high level, potentially. If I'm being generous with myself, I would consider myself maybe a high mid level player most of the time, with the potential to occasionally break a little higher depending on the day. So I'm definitely not world class, and I'm not going to fool myself or anyone else into thinking I'm world class. However, I still remember what it's like to go to a lot of smaller events, and this is simply my perspective. So, the first thing I want to say is in terms of how many of these just endless amounts of online brackets that we've been having with Guilty Gear Strive, with Melty, with all of these games, how did we get here, you know? Okay, so for those of you who don't know, back in the day, if you wanted to play fighting games with people, back in 1773 when fighting games were first invented, you had to go on like a horseback wagon, and you had to go to neighboring villages if you wanted to even attempt to hit buttons. Like, you had to go out of your way if you wanted to get any good at all. Net play and offline in general were considered very, very, very different experiences. So in general, if you ever wanted to actually play one of these games ever, you really, really wanted to have an offline scene. You're going to hear me repeat that a lot. And so even when we had fighting games come back in 2009, you didn't have a lot of online events. Net play was absolutely garbage. I can go on for hours about how bad it felt to play old BlazBlues, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Playing Street Fighter 4 online was fucking abysmal. You just could not realistically play almost any game online unless it had GGPO netcode. And if we're talking games with GGPO netcode that were officially released, I can think of Street Fighter 3 Online Edition. I can think of Skullgirls. And yeah, I think that's it. Legitimately. I can't think of any other game officially that released with GGPO. There might have been a version of Darkstalkers that released with it, I think. So in general, you just could not play fucking fighting games online. And because of that, most people just focused on locals or regionals or going to majors or stuff like that. In terms of fighting game online shit, you just kind of played a bit and you're like, oh, I'll use it to learn matchups or something, so it's fine. I'm not gonna really worry about it. That was the climate for a very, 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 very long time. But then in 2021, shit changed. Developers realized that if they wanted people to play their fucking game and actually succeed in a world where COVID, this huge virus, you may have heard of it, just was sweeping the entire world. We couldn't go out of our houses. If you wanted to play Guilty Gear, guess what? You're gonna need good netcode. And that's what Arxis fucking did. They're like, you know what? We're gonna listen to Zynak and we're gonna put rollback netcode in our game after not listening to him for fucking years. Shoutouts to Zynak. Gotta be one of my favorite developers. Go follow Zynak on Twitter. They're a fucking hero. You can know everything about rollback, probably them. If not them, then like, you know, people that were in contact with Zynak. But I digress. Essentially, what this did is it made these games playable for the first time in a long time. I remember when Strive's beta first came out, when they were testing the rollback netcode, and legitimately, I began laughing. I began crying. I was like, is this what I've been missing all this time? Are you serious? I could have been playing games like this for years and developers just said no? Actually? What the on God? For real? Just like that? And so, all of a sudden, a bunch of other people also had that realization. And, oh shit! Suddenly, people are able to actually play these niche fighting games that, you know, like Guilty Gear, where that's one of those games that's just kind of permuted pop culture a little bit. But no one really played it. They knew who Bridget was. They knew who Biken was. They knew who Soul Badman was. That Kyle Kisk guy. But they never actually sat down to play it because they usually didn't have all that many people to play with. And so what we're seeing here right now is the release of games adopting rollback netcode as a whole. Games like Melty Blood, games like Strive, games like AC+R, Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat. I can keep going, but needless to say, we're seeing the perfect storm of games actually being playable online for the first time, combined with the fact that communication has been more robust between gamers for years. Discord, Challenge, Start GG, Twitter, maybe for like another month or so. But in general, it's never been this easy to create, market, and execute a tournament. And so, essentially, this has led to people coming out in droves, making their own weeklies, bi-weeklies, and monthlies, and hosting them online, all from different wakes of life, all sorts of people with different levels of experience, both in game and running events, and honestly, this is the type of shit that I wanted for a long-ass time, but we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that, because now, we kind of know how we got here in terms of why are there so many online events? Why are events so oversaturated now, quote unquote? Well, you see, yes, wrong fun. This is a response to the Hotashi video, essentially. And I have some points that I want to make. But moving right along. Because there are so many events, you're never usually focused on like a single collection, right? So you have all of these tournaments everywhere. They're all scattered around. Everyone's running their own local. Everyone's running their own online event. I don't know, if everyone's so scattered around, is that really a good thing? Fuck yeah, it is! Hell yeah! Fuck yeah! More tournaments, better. And let me get into why that is. So, before we go any further, I'd like to go a little more into detail for when I started. The era, the year, 2009. Street Fighter 4 has just been released in the United States of America. A young RedMufflerMan, back then going by the handle YashanYu1, picks up a copy on the PlayStation 3. He thinks Ken's pretty cool. He's gonna go nuts, playing online, gonna show the world what's up. He didn't do very well. But, essentially, during the revival of the FGC in 09, for the most part, most of the prominence and prestige came primarily for offline events. You saw stuff like SoCal Regionals, NorCal Regionals, EVO, Seasons Beatings. God, there's Kumite in Tennessee. There's a lot of events. There was a lot of events, a lot of regionals, a lot of majors, and people in the FGC, if they wanted to play, they were traveling non-stop to go to all of these events. And while net play existed and was a thing, it was more of something that you kind of just mashed to learn matchups. If you didn't have anyone offline to play with, you kind of just played it. And in general, it was a pretty subpar experience. You were not playing these games the way that they were designed and intended. You could not rely on your reactions. And in general, at any point, something could just kind of drop and you would just lose whatever input you gave. And just, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. It wasn't intuitive. And it was the type of shit you would never have to worry about in an offline setting. And so you ended up with content made for the FGC. If it ever focused around online play, it only ever turned into, oh, online's kind of a joke. We're going to fuck around. A big example being the adventures of and Mike Ross, where essentially they just kind of vibed. They played a bunch of shit like online Street Fighter 4, online Marvel, the big vibed, and in general, they were just kind of having a good time, but they never really doing anything serious. They're never really talking about anything in terms of like what you could do during matches to do better and whatnot. There are bits of that sprinkled in, obviously, because they were both wonderfully good players. Sadly, one of them was a crypto bro and kind of weird, but that's a story for another day. He apparently may have also shit himself in an elevator at EVO, but, you know, that's hearsay at this point. I have to say legally it's hearsay, but regardless. Oh, you know who I'm talking about? It's you know, the guy? That one guy. Yeah, the guy, you know, the Pog Man. The man, the myth, the legend. If you don't know, it's for the best. I'm not giving you the name. Someone else can give you the name in chat. I'm not doing it. I'm not cursing somebody like that. Yeah, oh no, that fucking clown. But essentially, online was treated as a joke by a lot of people, myself included. I looked at online and I'm like, there's no point. I'll just kind of mash online because I have to, and like it's a way to let me play. But I could never take it seriously, and so for a while, it made fighting games very hard for me to play a lot of the time. Yo, you take it easy, Isaac. Have a good one. But essentially, this gave net play like a pretty big stigma. You never really fucked around with it. And as a result, if you were looking for online events, they existed. I remember back in the day, you had sites like All Is Brawl, All Is Fighters, and they would try their best to host like online events. And I feel like in general with Smash, there was a lot, because a lot of Smash kids were just kind of willing to put up with it because they didn't know what good net play was. But when they tried to do it with fighting games, it just never really went anywhere outside of a couple of small events. Like, I know for me personally, I entered a tournament for Street Fighter 4 once, and then I entered a tournament for Blaze Blue for a qualifier to go into NorCal Regionals. And I busted out because I was really bad. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. Regardless, online events weren't much of a thing, and you never really had a lot of online events that were given a lot of prestige. And what this resulted in was, for all intents and purposes, if you wanted to interact with the FGC in a meaningful way, you either had to have a scene, make a scene, or you had to bust your ass traveling around to whatever locals or regionals or majors, and then trying to get games maybe like, if you had a local, you could maybe get games once a week, maybe once a month. If there was a major, you had a handful of majors that you could go to. You had a handful of regionals, but in general, if you wanted to get games in on the regular, like, most people were shit out of luck, especially me. I lived in a remote eastern part of Kentucky where I could not travel, and I had no way of actually setting up a scene because I couldn't do anything. I was a kid. I was literally like 15, 16. I was trying my best to start something, but I just couldn't do it. So that really just added to like a lot of people just not being able to even play or interact with these games outside of maybe posting on forums or watching the occasional Twitch stream or playing really subpar shitty net play. And guess what? It sucked really bad. Oh my god. There were literally points in my career where I've almost quit fighting games like 5, 6, 7 times because I had no way of really getting to play meaningfully with anybody. Like, and we'll come back to that word, meaningful. We'll come back to that. That's that might be the hot word for the night. It might be the key word, the secret word. Anytime you hear it, just go, yay, you know. But moving on, right along. Essentially, if you wanted to play in the FGC, if you wanted to play fighting games back in 09, you were basically just given the middle finger. And you just had to deal with it if you were in a remote region where you didn't have locals or have access to regionals or majors. You were stuck. You couldn't do shit except for playing the worst net play ever. And you were probably also playing on Wi-Fi, because back then the information that Wi-Fi was bad wasn't readily fucking available. So net play was even worse than it is now. Like take that in for a second. It's even worse, not only because delay based, but because everyone's stupid and doesn't know that Wi-Fi sucks. But now, what we are experiencing is the net play bracket explosion. And the best way that I can describe this is we have been unable to really take use of the online space for running brackets for so long that all of a sudden you're seeing this huge influx. Think of it like we're making up for the lost time. And so now all of these people that wanted to play online, all of these people that wanted to run events, all of these people that wanted to stream, all of these kinds of events now have this outlet, now have this opportunity that was closed off to them for so long. I can say it right now. Had this been a thing when I was 15, 16, I would have likely been an online tournament organizer myself. I likely would have been playing and grinding nonstop, and I likely would have grown at a much faster pace than I have now, because it took me years to get to where I was. But had this been a thing that we're having now with this many brackets, where I can go to a bracket and just enter 1, 2, 3, 4 tournaments a week, yeah, no, man, I'd be going fucking nuts. Like, all of these players, all of these TOs, all of these hopeful commentators, everyone have not been able to really do much of anything because maybe that they're just stuck in a remote place. And like, combine all of this with COVID making the traditional local just kaput, gone. Enter the net play local becoming the new local. And it makes perfect sense. It is just a much lower barrier of entry. Anyone can just run into an online bracket as long as they have a console or a PC or just a decent internet connection, you know? And so, we're talking about that lower barrier of entry. And This is one of the big things that I have a huge issue with in terms of Hotashi's opinion. And it is that if we take all of these new events that, that are popping up, people running their own local, doing their own thing, and we decide, what if we just don't do that? And instead, we choose to just all consolidate into these big tournaments that already kind of have their own thing going on, like the can opener and bamboo battles and just all of these other events, essentially, that already have a full production pipeline and staff and everything going. We're closing the door on so much new talent. And without these smaller events, without just these small tournaments, these small little locals, it's going to be really difficult for new players, new commentators, new TOs, maybe even some content creators that would like to take clips and maybe put them up. Like, it gets a lot harder in general for a lot of these players to really get their start. And if we just decide, let's just consolidate into all of these other events and make them way bigger, then, what about the new commentators? What about these TOs that want to be able to cut their teeth? It's a lot harder to get into something that's already established than it is to start something yourself. And, I can agree with that. As someone who's had to break into graphic design, video editing, someone currently breaking into voice acting, someone who is also currently doing commentary for a lot of events that I am shocked that I have gotten to even commentate. Straight up, if it was not for the smaller events that I've been able to put on, I would not have had the opportunities that I've had. And a lot of the events that I've put on, for all intents and purposes, have been very small events with relatively small player bases for some relatively niche games. Some of them not so niche, but you get the idea. It's one of these things where if we tell smaller TOs to just give way and not do this, then we're telling our community just no. And I think that that's kind of messed up. And this is just where we kind of are at this point, where in terms of online is kind of the future. I feel, and this actually hurts me to say, the in-person local is, I think, going to start to become a thing of the past. We won't be seeing as many locals coming together in person to really get to play out as much as we do. And you're already hearing stories about that, where a lot of locals can't get their venue because of shit like COVID just destroying so many agreements, or just literally closing down stores that people hosted their events out of. Apologies, I need a drink of water. I'm done. Holy fuck. All right, hang on 1 second, gang. But I legitimately think, for all intents and purposes, where we're going to be in the next few years is the majority of tournaments that you're going to be able to enter easily. And even now, I'm saying in the future, it's now. We're already here. You can enter an online bracket far more easily than you can going to a local that is a 10, 20, 30-minute drive, going there, paying your venue fee, paying the money down to enter the bracket, maybe bringing a setup to help them. One has way more steps than the other. And it's just simply one of those things where most people are going to go for the path of least resistance. And so I think it makes perfect sense that online locals becoming the new local, becoming the norm, it makes sense. We are already here. I say it's in the future, but we're already kind of here. As sad as that is to say. But at the same time, the phrase, support your locals, should also extend to these smaller brackets, these smaller tournaments that people are running. You can't just say support your locals in person and then be like, oh, some people are running some small brackets over there, like with just some of their friends and maybe like a small community that they got going. Nah, we should just not do that and instead funnel everything into these bigger events. It's just, that's not supporting your locals. That's the big thing. When you say support your local, you have to mean support your local. It's not a buzzword. Gotta put down. But this is the part of this presentation where I think Hotashi actually brings up a very good point. A lot of these events are being run in the same way. A simple double elimination bracket, not much of a prize pool. It all comes down to be really samey. Everyone has Matcherino codes, so everyone's going to be fighting for like $5. Like, in general, while we do have a large pool of events, and having a large pool of events is very, very, very nice, there's room for different kinds of events. And what I would like to ask budding TOs, budding commentators, content creators, everyone who has their hand, and even players, everyone who has their hand in the tournament running scene, it's time to experiment. It's time to have some fun. And it's time to get a little harder into your craft. If you want to. We'll get back to that. But when it comes to adding variety to your events, you know, what do? How do I do that? What are a few ways that I can add some variety to my events without causing me to have to completely change everything that I'm doing? Well, Jimmy, do I have the answer for you? Consider the following. So, those of you who may not know, there is a certain series of events that are quite good at, how can I put this? They have the same core tenets as what you might expect from the FGC. And that, my friend, if you want to make an event, and you want to have some fun with it, you want to make it interesting, you should look at other FGC events. You should also be looking at professional goddamn wrestling. So here's the lowdown. Here is the thing. You want to know what pro wrestling and the FGC and tournaments, you want to know what they all have in common? First, pro wrestling, absolute masterclass in promotion. If you're running a tournament, you are running a promotion. And you want to know what good promotions have? Personality, aesthetic. You know how to build anticipation. You can build hype. You're running a special event maybe now and then. You got production values. You have engagement, and you have consistency. And let me tell you, if there is one thing that professional wrestling excels at, no matter how stupid some of these storylines might be, they hold attention. They care just as much for the viewership as they do the people participating. Unless you're Vince McMahon, but we'll get back to that another day. So, these are things that I personally would consider core tenets of the FGC in terms of how you can run an event that feels different, that feels alive, that feels good. And so, I've kind of compiled a list of a few things that I think budding TOs, current TOs, just people that are working in the tournament space can do to give a little more life to these events. If you want to make your event unique, you can do a few things. If you're the type of the person that has production experience, you can make a trailer. If you're wanting to maybe try different formats, you can try some exhibitions, you can try running some leagues, maybe come up with some weird funny tournaments, like A tournament where you can only hit like 2 buttons, or a tournament where you are limited on your character choice. Maybe a tournament where you can only play 1 character per round and then are forced to swap off from each. Maybe a random select tournament. Maybe a CPU tournament. Maybe a tournament where you can only play on Wi-Fi. Maybe a tournament where you can gentleman to any other game you want to play instead of having to play the game that you have actually put down. Maybe you do a mystery tournament. The sky is the limit. We have so many things that we can do for so many different kinds of events. And if you're just running a normal local, you already don't have much to lose. You're just kind of messing around and just giving people a place to play. Have some fun with it. Don't be afraid to just be like, you know what? There's a whole bunch of other tournaments already that are doing the same thing that we're doing. Why don't we mess around? Why don't we do some good stuff? Not only that, again, if you're a type of person that's big into production, make some flashy visuals, maybe some nice stream aesthetic stuff going on. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do visually to make yourself stand out and be unique in terms of a presentation. You can also make sure that you engage with your chat, as I am doing right now. He mentioned some bad... Did I mention some bad things? I'm so sorry. I'm funneling so many ideas for Sinai right now. Bet. Rhythm game time? Oh, baby. Project Diva tournament right now. That game doesn't have rollback netcode, but it don't matter. We're going in, baby. Yeah, next to a tournament where the goal is solely to get an IK. Oh my god. But, and then this doesn't just mean people on the production side. This doesn't mean just TOs. Commentators. I know there's a few of you out there. There's a few of you budding commentators that I know that are there. Don't be afraid to just practice your commentary. When you're in the shower, talk to yourself. If you're just kind of like chilling around for a second, think about some game shit in your head. Think about what it is that you would say in response to that. Maybe watch some replays and commentate them on Twitch. It's a great way to sit down and develop your own commentary style. It's what I've done for years. I constantly talk to myself and not a therapist, so I know a few things about, like, just running scenarios in my head. If I know that something's gonna happen, I tell myself, this is what I would say in that situation, essentially. And maybe that doesn't work for everyone, I will say that right now, but it's one of those things where practicing your craft, practicing is huge. And if you want to break into commentary, a big part of that is just getting used to speaking. And maybe it's not even practicing commentary. Maybe it's practicing projection, practicing your diction, the type of stuff you would do for voiceover, voice acting, presentation, speech. These are all things I've been practicing for years. These are things that you can practice. These are things you can learn. And if there's one more thing about events, is if you're really passionate about an event, you're putting some good shit into it, don't be afraid to put a little money down. Maybe put down like a pot bonus. Maybe put down some cool shit that like someone could win that might just involve you having to spend maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks or something, you know? That's just a lot of it. Is if you are serious about a tournament and you want it to do well, investing is one other way that you can do it. And that's another big thing, is if you want to invest, you can try some fun prizes, like what we did last year with Extra Life Innovates for our charity tournament. For those that don't know, we hosted 3 charity brackets. One was Gundam, which that was a cash prize, but we didn't want to offer cash prizes for Melty and Guilty Gear because with everything else that we were running, it just seemed like a lot going on, and I wanted to do something a little more fun. Don't worry, I'll get you that soon. I'm sorry, Bullet. Oh, God. Anyway, so what we had going on here is for Guilty Gear, first place, which you may have actually seen these on Sajam's stream at one point. I'm still shocked that this event got advertised on Sajam's stream. Holy shit. If you won first place in Guilty Gear, you had this shirt made by my good friend Korag, which, hang on, actually. I always talk about supporting your locals. You should also support your artists. So, this is Korag. He's great. I commissioned him specifically to make this shirt about 2 weeks before the event started. And first place got this sweater. And then on the left, we had this illustration of Noelle Melty Blood. And if you won the Type Lumina tournament, which I believe was won by Safe on Hit, who I think is Masoma, I don't remember. You got this sweater drawn by the lovely Color Bruce, big friendo of mine, rushed this shit out so fast. And yeah, we also ran the big Gundam bracket, which got in a ton of donations, ton of attention, and that was just a big thing. We ran a big charity event because we knew it was different, and we got to do all sorts of fun shit. It's great. Appreciate your artists. You should follow Color Bruce and Korag on Twitter right now. They're wonderful people. They make cool art. I know Colors and Korag also both stream, so definitely also look for them on Twitch. I'm pretty sure they have the same names. But I was talking about this a little earlier as well, when it comes to commentary, when it comes to investing, when it comes to graphics, video editing, production, streaming. Really, the first thing is if you want to run an event, hell, if you even want to play fighting games, it's okay if you don't know how to do this shit immediately. Work on developing yourself. It's okay if you can't do things yet. You don't have to be afraid to learn something new. You can just take it one step at a time. Improvement is not a race. And when it comes to everything like commentary, video production, event organization, streaming, even just playing, or like coming up with ideas for stuff, or running different kinds of events, like, so many people wear so many different hats, and you're just going to be learning so much stuff, and that's fine. Because again, all of this is stuff that you can learn. Justin Wong didn't get popped out of the womb immediately knowing how to do, like, full fucking confirms. Yipes didn't get popped out knowing how to immediately commentate. He didn't just have that. Like, that is something all of these players have at least in one way or another developed. Maybe that charisma was there, but they chose to take what they were good at and they developed it. And that's something that literally anyone can do. You just have to be willing to really put in the time to see what it is that you yourself want to do. But really, I think at the end of the day, I'm saying you can do all this, you can do all that. You can do all of this to make your production top tier. You can do all of this to make your events stand out and be wonderful and be fantastic and great and be meaningful. But at the end of the day, that's only if you want to. The concept of being meaningful it's all subjective. Imagine you're running a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And in order to keep the campaign running, you have to start a podcast. And if each episode of that podcast doesn't hit 10,000 hits a week, then your Dungeons and Dragons campaign that you are running with your friends isn't considered meaningful. Imagine how bleak, how stressful that is to think about something that you do as a hobby is pointless if it doesn't reach a certain metric, if it doesn't reach a certain number. That's capitalism. That's capitalism in your ear talking to you, telling you that if you're not profiting, if you're not like making a splash in some way, then what you're doing isn't worth doing. Production doesn't have to be top tier to be worth doing. If it's worth it to you, worth it to maybe a few of your friends that are participating in your online tournament, that's good enough. For real. The idea that events need to be pushing this upper echelon, that smaller events need to just stop happening to give these higher tier events a little more, like, prestige, I suppose, just feels a little off to me. I'm not big on it. And you can also say, yeah, there are people that will play in, like, 4 or 5 tournaments a week and they'll play in multiple net play brackets at once. And yeah, that's maybe the one big negative that I would see from this, honestly, from a logistic standpoint. But to say that something isn't meaningful because it's not hitting a specific metric is messed up. And from the eyes of a content creator, which I also am, I completely understand. I literally just checked my viewers right now. I was at 39 viewers, and I know what it's like when you want to look at, like, but are my numbers doing well? Do I continue if my numbers don't hit a certain number? I know what it feels like as a content creator. So I understand why Hotashi is saying this. Legitimately. I understand. But, like, you can't let numbers and metrics get in the way of people doing stuff that they love. Like, at the end of the day, for a lot of people, this is a hobby. Commentary, organizing an event, it's all an excuse for them and maybe a few other people in their group and whoever else out there would want to enter. You just get to sit down and play some games for a few hours. Have a good time. Take away the stress of the world. And instead embrace the stress of fighting games, which is, sometimes a little worse than that. But you get what I mean. At the end of the day, the production that you put on, if it's meaningful to just you, that's enough. If you want to push it more, if you want to go further, if you want to better yourself, good. You should always look for an excuse to better yourself. To do something better is always nice. But don't feel like you have to. It's all subjective. If you're having fun with exactly the way that your tournament is going, you don't gotta push any further. And really with that, if I have any sort of closing statement, it's just that the idea of whether or not an event is meaningful is all in the eyes of the beholder. Really, just at the end of the day, as long as you're having fun playing tournaments, you're having fun putting on tournaments, and you want to give a space to people, you shouldn't feel bad about it. You should not feel like you have to be demonized or anything for shit like that. Your events are meaningful to you, and that's enough. And I will say right now that we're here at the end, I want to actually give a shout out to Hotashi. Legitimately. Like, he said a lot of shit that I disagree with, and a lot of shit that was kind of head-ass in context with a lot of this, but at the same time, he himself has also said, no, I understand that I maybe didn't air this in the best context. He legitimately went out of his way to apologize to people. So I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that he can do better. And frankly, that's really what I want for this community as a whole. I would like us for all of us to be able to just come together, play games, and enjoy ourselves. So yeah. At this point, I would like to open the floor. If there are any questions, concerns, confessions that anyone in chat might have, feel free to hit me. Or if you would like to pick my brain on anything. And it can be anything in terms of just like FGC stuff if you want. I will leave the floor open for a few minutes before we finally close out. And then I'll be starting Strive, and I'll probably play Strive for about an hour, hour and a half, and we'll just vibe. You know what is actually... As a line reading, we'll get to that after questions. What is the number one... You know what is actually the number one sleep uniqueifier to tournaments? Hit me, Cash. What is it? If you gotta inform me, let me know. Give me the deets. This might go in the YouTube video. This is being made into a YouTube video, by the way. Music? Yes, actually. I feel like having good music in general is just a good part of production. Like, legit. It definitely helps when you have at least something. Like, it's part of that production. Like, literally before this stream started, I put together an entire folder of music specifically for this stream from all sorts of shit that I felt would fit the mood. That's part of production. How would I recommend starting an event? Is chat allowed to help answer questions? Yes, Bullet. The way that I would start an event. The big thing I would say here is to, this is gonna sound silly. Just do it. That's the short answer. The long answer would be get familiar with StartGG. Find out what scope you would want. Are you wanting just a small online bracket? Do you want to stream it? How many players are you expecting? Who would you need to help with this? Is there anyone you might want to reach out to in terms of commentators or people that can help with this style of event? What about dates? The first thing I would say is write down all of the questions that you would have for running your event. And then from there, come up with the answers that you think are going to work. And then from there, get on StartGG and just do it. Start advertising in whatever Discords you're in. Start advertising on Twitter. Ask your friends to advertise for you as long as it's in places that are like kosher, that allow that shit. A lot of it is legitimately just get out there and do it. And Ocean Knight, that is also what I would say for getting into tournaments for fighting games. If you're looking to organize a tournament, that's the best way that I would do it. And then we have Bullet's answer of, if you aren't sure exactly how to go about it, try reaching out to an existing tournament and volunteer to help. Tell them you want to try running events, but you aren't really sure what to do or where to start. So you'd like to volunteer and or shadow to see how most of the events are being run and be welcome to help. Yes, helping existing events will help you immensely. Because I will tell you right now, straight up, I went in blind. For those who don't know, like I said, I was a TO, and I've been a TO since I believe 2012. I think 2012. 2012. I started being a TO when Arcade Edition 2012 update hit. And I didn't know shit. I was running local events, and I knew that challenge existed from having been in Super Smash Bros. Brawl tournaments. And I was just running a bracket the way that I knew how. And I had almost no help. And it was trial by fire, and I just learned how to do it as I went. Eventually, I met people that also wanted to learn how to run brackets, and I taught them. And a big part of it was just knowing the platforms, knowing the resources, knowing proper etiquette, knowing how to come up with rule sets. And you can learn almost all of that by volunteering for other tournaments and helping them out. And you know they're going to appreciate it, because I can tell you right now, tournament running, thankless fucking job. Definitely, TOs want as much help as they can fucking get. And if you feel you are up to it and you're willing to make a commitment to learn how, fucking go for it. There are people all the time that put out signups. Literally, the Melty Community Discord put out signups for commentators, TOs, streamers, all this shit. And I signed up to be a commentator and a streamer, and I just got put in like that. Sometimes it's as simple as finding someone that you know who needs help. Maybe a community is asking for help. Sometimes it's just giving that help and then just like being willing to learn. Sorry, I'm like scrolling up here. But yeah, Ocean Knight. I hope that would answer your question as well. If you're wondering how to get into tournaments from like a player standpoint, just go to go to like Twitter, see what people are advertising. There's a lot of Discords that run tournaments, like Sajam's Discord runs a lot of events. Or just look on Start GG. There's events every single day up there that you can just enter. A lot of them are free. Just go for it. It has never been easier to find an event for a game that you want to play. All right, here real quick. But yeah, like I feel like a lot of it, Beely, is like for online, it's just finding the gumption to do it and just do it. With offline, there's definitely a few other factors in terms of, oh, hey, I have to find a venue. I have to find someone willing to give us the space. I have to find the hardware and stuff for it. But those are all logistical things that you can deal with. Like, if you put out the announcement that a tournament's going and you know some people or have access to be able to reach out to some people who might not even be FGC people, but people who just might have a passing interest in fighting games, yeah, bring a setup or two somewhere. You'd never know what would happen. Do the Start GG surfing to find an online excerpt weekly. Bug, rollback, won't be back official. No, yeah. Yeah. Ooh. See, I feel like with a lot of those, it's like a lot of wonderful content creators are actually putting out brackets and such shit like that. Like, pretty sure Pat still does their Exerd Weekly. Hang on, let me see if I can find that. I believe it's Pat the Flip. Pat. Yep, Pat the Flip. Wrong one. There we are. Ah! I have gone black on our presentation. It's fine. Yeah, there's Pat the Flip. And then you have Solid Bones and Sajam, who run the beginner bracket. There's all sorts of wonderful people constantly running events. And I'm not going to say that they're the easiest things to find sometimes, but in general, like, as long as you can just do some searches on either StartGG or Twitter, or if you know some people in some Discords, you can probably find some events. A lot of it is just sometimes just being out there and willing to talk to some people. If anyone is still a little unsure on how to go running a tournament or starting one, please send me a message. I don't mind answering as many questions as I am able. The world does not deserve you, Bullet. Oh, shit. Oh, Legion. Legion, you know what's funny? You know what's funny? He's already here. But real quick then, I will summon the boy momentarily. But are there any other questions? He is still in the booth. Yes, he's still in the booth. So do we have any other questions from people in chat, or are we basically good? Because like I said, I'm willing to basically answer any and all questions. As long as they're basically on topic. Please do not ask me my 3 sizes. I do not know them. That's the one thing I cannot tell you, is a closely guarded secret. What? Can't believe I'm about to ban Bullet. It's finally happening. Oh, man. Oh, shit. All right. You know yours? Oh. Well, shit. You thought Bullet died? No, Bullet's alive. Bullet's vibing. For now. But yeah, if we have no more questions, last call for any sort of questions involving TOing, running an event, all that shit. Running your three sizes is bust, waist, hip size. What do I think will happen to the BB director now? I think Maury's probably just going to go to another studio and just start working on other games. It's that easy, I think. Like, that's just usually what happens in that industry. Heck, he might even go out of his way to start his own industry, or start his own company. That's very common, and he's high profile, all things considered. So he could definitely do it. But no, yeah, that is what 3 sizes are. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Oh, man. All right, I guess if we're good... This is the perfect music for it, too. Oh, my God. He did say he wanted to make an Idolmaster fighting game. It was Idolmaster versus Love Live. It's not Strive Time just yet, because... Hang on just a second, guys. Hey, little one. The people want to see you. 1 second. We're taking off the headphones because it is an ass ache to do this with the headphones on. What?
The ring light fell over. Ah. Here he is, the boy. Come on. Hey, dog. There he is, the baby. Look into the camera, little guy. People want to see you. Hey. The bab, the baby. So I gave the boy his medicine today because, for those that don't know, I basically have to give him some pills, like, I'd say at this point, twice a week. They're like a steroid. Because if I don't, he gets really, lethargic. He'll start drooling a lot. It's almost cartoon levels of drool. And, like, I can't really give him the pill until he starts showing some symptoms, which is always shitty. So there's like basically 1 to 2 days out of the week where he will feel like booty garbage. But that is just how he is. It is unfortunate. But like literally today, I was like, "Oh, hey little guy, how you doing?" And he looks up at me and there's just this drool.
Oh, little guy. Oh, little guy. Little dude. Give me little headbutts. Oh my god, he gave me little headbutts. He gave me little headbutts.
Okay. But like he had like this string of drool. And like the best way that I could describe it is you know the kid who has the runny nose from like Wind Waker? Is like that, but a cat. For real. It's like I love this little guy. He's super gross. I love him. Oh. But, like, he's had his medicine today, so he's already feeling a bit better. And lately, what he's been doing is, when I haven't been using my vocal booth, I've been letting him sleep in there, essentially. Because he likes it, because it's warm, and it smells like me. Because, I'll tell you right now, when you do voice acting, you do a lot of moving, if you're like me, and you get really physical. And it gets really hot in there. So essentially, that booth smells like me. By quite a bit. So he gets in there and he's just like, "Oh baby, I love this. Gonna eat your cookies? Go for it, Slayer." But yeah, like in general, again, for those that don't know, he has messed up vocal cords, he gets sick a lot. And I do my best to take care of him.
He is a loving little boy that was found on a farm that got brought here to the city. He was a feral, I think, actually. He was either a feral or he was abandoned. We don't know. We just kind of found him. And you can just pick him up and he won't move. Like, if I just do this, he is content to just rest here. I could let him fall asleep on my chest right now, I think. Because he just loves how warm it is. And he just won't move. And you can just pick him up. He's so chill. And he just never tries to bite you. He never tries to scratch you. You can rub his belly and he'll just be like, oh yeah, baby. He's a dog. He's basically a little doggy dog. Look at him. He's a little doggy dog. Look at that. He's about to record a mixtape. Go for it, little guy. Give him a good old meow. Oh, give him a good old meow. Won't do it? Come on. Won't do it. Won't do it. He's a dork. It's fine though, because I still love him. I think my meows are pretty okay though, so I can use that as a substitute. Ain't that right, little guy? If we were downstairs and I was talking to him, he'd be meowing up a storm. Yeah, he is a little dog with cat ears. Have you seen this face? Shit, damn. Oh. Bring the mic when you lock him out of the bath. Yeah, if I go to the bathroom, it's really funny. He'll beg me to give him water from the bathtub. So I have a little bowl in there specifically to run water from the bathtub for my cat. Essentially, my cat loves bath water a lot. Definitely an undernight player. Oh, Jabos knew where that was going. Jabos knew where that was going. Hey, yo, Goose Puffs with the prime? Oh, and little baby shifting. It looks like he wants down. Looks like he finally wants down. Oh. Alright, come on, little guy. Let's get you out of here. Well, yeah, Bullet's hold. So here's the thing. I basically vet all of my jokes through Bullet as my secretary.
What are you gonna do, little guy? All right, hang on. His claws are stuck because I haven't actually cut them yet. Whoa.
Whoop. There we go.
Down you go.
All right. He's retreated back into the booth where it is safe and warm and smells